and she's a Fox News contributor. And some perspective on this morning, Michelle. President Morsi saying, I want to be president of all Egyptians. And really, the only reason I did any of these sort of decrees was to keep out the former Mubarak regime. Right. Do you buy that, number one? And how do you think the Obama administration should handle him now?
Yeah, well, I certainly don't buy it, and my opinion matters a lot less than the people in Egypt who are now saying, we told you so. This was long telegraphed that these kind of power grabs are exactly what you could expect from the front man for the Muslim Brotherhood. The Obama administration is making all of the expected, obligatory gestures of finger wagging at Morsi, but they backed this administration, and their acolytes and their followers basically admonished anyone who raised concerns about Morsi's proclivities of being a quote-unquote Islamophobe. Well, it's these Muslims, especially young, disillusioned Muslims now in Egypt, who can hardly be accused of Islamophobia, who've been warning about the encroachments of power of this administration. And I think the biggest canary in the coal mine has been the press, because its dissidents on TV, satellite channels, and in social media who've been talking about the crackdown on criticism of any kind. I mean, even the most moderate of criticism of the Morsi administration. It's a sad situation, but perfectly expected.
On the flip side was the praise that the Obama administration heaped on Egypt. They're handling their government. In particular, Susan Rice just the other day talked glowingly about Morsi and what he did there in brokering this peace agreement. Charles Krauthammer suggested that what's happening now is somewhat a reaction to the praise heaped on him. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, what a lot of people see, of course, is the pats on the back, not by the just by the Obama administration, but by Morsi himself patting himself on the back, and then basically flipping the bird to people who believed in democracy and freedom in Egypt. And as for Susan Rice, one might give her the benefit of the doubt and call it naivete, but for the longest time, she and her ilk in government service, particularly at the State Department, have been jihad coddlers, and this is just another example of that.
And Michelle, do you think it's time to withdraw or delay the massive amounts of money that we give to Egypt?
Well, yeah, I've always questioned the billions of dollars that we've spent there, and certainly it isn't yielding the rainbows and unicorn results that we were promised.
Michelle, stick around. We have a lot more to talk to you about, including this state and Michelle Malkin's home state of Colorado they are the first states to legalize marijuana for recreational use. But as the Colorado governor famously said, hold the Cheetos, because pot is still illegal at the federal level. So should Eric Holder's Justice Department step in and intervene? We're back with Michelle Malkin. Michelle, how psyched are you about the legalization of pot in your state?
Well, you know, there's already a medical marijuana shop practically on every corner here. And I have to say, you know, I've long had libertarian tendencies on a lot of these issues, particularly seeing just how the overzealous enforcement of drug laws, federal drug laws in this country, has done more harm than good. All that said, I am concerned about the slippery slope, as we all should be. But I think from a political point of view, it is a little bit amusing to see the feds now in this position, this quandary that the DOJ is in, of having to negotiate with the states, you know, fairly liberal states, on how to enforce, or rather not enforce, these laws and trump the will of the people. I mean, the thing is, these states voted for this. This is what they've determined. Right. And a lot of the backing here came from, believe it or not, police chiefs and law enforcement. Do you see a double standard here, though, guys? I mean, it's interesting. On the one hand, you had the Department of Justice basically saying, hey, we're not going to pay any attention to what you guys did down there in Arizona as it related to the immigration law. You guys passed it. You did it. But we're not going to enforce it. Here, you guys passed this law. Now we may have to step in and enforce something. Yes, and that's exactly the key political point here, an ideological point, guys, because you've got this selective federalism on the part of many people, and it does show up this hypocrisy, certainly of a lot of these leftists who champion their ballot measures, whether it's gay marriage or legalization of marijuana or even much harder drugs, which is another huge concern, but then want the feds to get involved if it has to do with things that they disagree with, Tea Party causes, limited government, taxes, collective bargaining, voter ID, election fraud, and of course immigration issues.
I'll be in Colorado over the holidays. I can't wait to see the impact of this new law. Michelle Malkin, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate it. It will. Yeah.
Take care. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thanks, Michelle.